Chapter 2198, competitors randomly assigned Diao Xiaoyan saw Yun Chujia's deep and dark eyes, emitting a chilling light, and could not help but take a few steps back. Before Diao Xiaoyan could react, he felt a chill on his neck, and Yun Chujia's cold voice came from behind him. If you provoke me again, I will make your head move. If you don't believe me, you can try. Diao Xiaoyan's legs were slightly trembling, but he still said in a threatening manner, You dare? If you hurt me, you will never be able to enter the Xingtian Academy. Yun Chujio smiled coldly. If I can't enter the Xingtian Academy and your life is compared, which do you think is more important? Get lost. Yun Chujio put away her kitchen knife and kicked Diao Xiaoyan. Diao Xiaoyan was kicked more than 30 feet away and caught by his companion. At least he didn't fall down and embarrass himself. Diao Xiaoyan's face turned green and white. He wanted to find Yun Chujio to settle the score again, but his companion stopped him. Jing Tai, forget it. If the matter gets out of hand, you will be punished too. We will find a chance to deal with her in the future. Diao Xiaoyan gritted his teeth and cursed a few times. Then, he followed his companion to the other side to meditate. Although the dispute between the two was not a big one, it was still noticed by someone with a heart. Teacher Pang was one of them. He could not help but be a little surprised. That examinee was at the 5th level of the spiritual profound realm, while Mo Fangchao was only at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm. How could he have suppressed that examinee in an instant? Wasn't this movement technique too fast? This little girl had many secrets hidden. I wonder what kind of spirit root she has. From the looks of it, she should have a fire spirit root. After the second round of tests ended, Teacher Pang walked up to the high platform and announced the contents of the third round of tests. The third round of tests will still be conducted in groups. Every 2 groups will compete for a spot to enter the next round of tests. Whichever group is the first to arrive at the designated location and obtain the token will be considered to have won. However, all 4 people must arrive before it will be effective. In addition, the 2 teams are not allowed to fight. If they are discovered, both teams will be eliminated. This round of the test is still prohibited from flying and using talismans. Now, competitors will be randomly assigned. Yun Chujio could not help but sigh in her heart. This Heaven Punisher Academy really had many tricks up their sleeves. It was quite interesting. However, she did not know which unlucky team was going to fight with them. It was considered unlucky for them to run into Team Leader Little 9. P.L.S. read on MYB0's Nov L. Com Shui Wuji soon found the group that was going to fight with them on the big screen, the 10th group. Although this guy was also fearless, he couldn't help but feel nervous. The 10th group was ranked in the top 5 of these groups, but they actually ran into them. Fuck, they were really unlucky. Jin Ji and Mo Fangbing didn't look too good either. If they ran into a group with similar strength, they could still fight, but the 10th group's strength was much higher than theirs. Among the 4 people in the 10th group, 2 of them were at the 7th layer of the Ling Xian realm, and 2 of them were at the 6th layer of the Ling Xian realm. On Yun Chujia's side, Shui Wuji was at the 1st layer of the Ling Xian realm, Jin Ji was also at the 1st layer of the Ling Xian realm, and Mo Fangbing, who was slightly better, was only at the 2nd layer of the Ling Xian realm. There was also Yun Chujio, who was at the 6th layer of the Spirit Paragon realm. No matter how one looked at it, she had no chance of winning. Compared to Shui Wuji and the others who were dejected, the 4 people in the 10th group were extremely proud. They felt that it was too easy to take down this useless group. The leader of the 10th group was called Liang Hong. He walked in front of Yun Chujio and the others and said arrogantly, "Anyway, you have no chance of winning. You might as well just forfeit. This way, you will suffer less." Chapter 2199. Team Leader Little Nine's ideological work. Shui Wuji's slender and phoenix-like eyes twitched as he looked at Liang Hong with a bewitching look. "You sure talk big. What kind of ability is that? Let's see who is the one who will be eliminated." Seeing Shui Wuji's bewitching smile, some of the female examinees could not help but feel their hearts beating wildly. Although this person's spiritual power was a little low, he was really too good-looking. He was just like a person in a painting. Liang Hong saw that those female examinees were all looking at Shui Wuji with adoration, and his heart was filled with jealousy and hatred. He snorted coldly. Boasting? I'm at the 7th level of the spiritual profound realm, and you're at the 1st level of the spiritual profound realm. Who are we boasting about? What a good-looking but useless embroidered pillow. How could Xue Wuji's short temper endure this? If this was in the Tianyuan continent, he would have long turned people into ashes. Even if his current spiritual power was not as high as Liang Hongou's, he still could not endure this anger. Seeing that Xue Wuji's eyes were filled with killing intent, Yun Chujio quickly grabbed his sleeve. Brother Wuji, why bother to stoop to the level of a mad dog? Just see the truth during the test. When Liang Hong heard Yun Chujio call him a mad dog, he was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. Stupid girl, don't be complacent. It'll make you cry when the time comes. At this moment, Teacher Pang told everyone to stand in the designated area to get the topographic map and prepare to receive the teleportation. Before Liang Hong and the others left, they glared at Yun Chujio and the others. Let's wait and see. After everyone stood in the designated area, a white light flashed. When everyone opened their eyes again, they had already been teleported to the test site. Yun Chujio originally thought that the two teams would be teleported to different locations. She did not expect that they would actually be teleported to the same location. Liang Hong and the other three looked at Yun Chujio and sneered, "Stupid girl, aren't you arrogant? You better behave yourself, or there are plenty of ways to kill you." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and did not say anything. Liang Hong was very pleased. He felt that Yun Chujio must be afraid. After mocking her a few more times, he brought the other three and left according to the map. Xue Wuji was so angry that he gritted his teeth. "Little sister Jiao, why don't you let me do it?" Yun Chujio looked at Xue Wuji. "Brother Wuji, you have to understand a fact. This is not the Tianyuan continent, and you are not the young Master Wuji who stands at the top. You are now at the bottom of the food chain. You have to learn to endure." Although Xue Wuji knew that what Yun Chujio said made sense, he still said angrily, "Little sister Jiao, what you said makes sense. But can we only endure this cowardice? I am so frustrated." PLs read on IB0's Nov L. COM. The corner of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. When you're not strong enough, you naturally can only endure. However, defeating a person can not only rely on fighting head-on, there are even more energy-saving methods. Don't you just want to vent your anger? Don't worry, it'll let you vent your anger. Eliminating them is the best punishment for them. The winner of this round of test will definitely be us. Xue Wuji looked at Yun Chujio suspiciously. "Little sister Jiao, although I admit that you have a lot of tricks up your sleeve, the opponent's spiritual power is much higher than ours. Can we get the token before them?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "As long as you listen to me, you can definitely do it." Xue Wuji and the other two could only try their best when they saw Yun Chujio's confident look. They all nodded in agreement. "Let's go, let's go." Little Nine waved his paw after he finished his thought work. Soon, Xue Wuji and the other two realized that something was wrong. Chapter 2200 was really bad, Little Jiao. This direction seems to be the direction of the 10th group. Shouldn't we choose another route? Jin Ji asked in puzzlement. Xue Wuji and Mo Fangbing also looked at Yun Chujio in puzzlement. If it was the same route as the 10th group, how could they compete with the 10th group? Yun Chujio smiled slyly. "This is the brilliance of our group leader. I've seen it just now. The third round of the test not only tests our spiritual power, but also our endurance. We need at least 3 days to reach the finish line from where we are now. Instead of choosing another route, we might as well secretly follow behind the 10th team. Let them clear the obstacles for us. We can just sit back and enjoy their achievements. At the last moment, when their spiritual power is almost used up, we'll send someone who comes later to catch up. We'll infuriate them to death." Xue Wuji and the other two looked at each other and gave each other a thumbs up. Damn it. Damn it. This method was absolutely terrible. However, they had to admit that this method was simply too great. The 10th group was charging at the front while they were conserving their energy at the back. At the end, they would take a detour and charge to the front. They would definitely be ahead of them. In the following period of time, Yun Chujio and the other 3 leisurely followed behind the 10th group. Anyway, they would not be able to discover it if they kept a distance. Moreover, the 10th group was dreaming. They did not expect that there would be someone so shameless as to follow behind them and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Time passed quickly. The results would not be out for at least 3 days, so Teacher Pang temporarily left the Divine Axe Square to deal with some other matters. The rest of the teachers would only pay attention to the topographic map on the big screen occasionally. The rest of the time, they would take turns to rest and meditate. When everyone was free, they would naturally chat about the situation of the test. One of the instructors said, "In the 3rd round of the test, if we want to talk about the disparity in strength, it should be Group 10 and Group 250. This result is without any suspense." That's right. Group 10 is much stronger than Group 250. The winner will definitely be Group 10. In fact, Group 250 was just taking advantage of the situation in the 2nd round of the test. In the 3rd round, even if she wanted to take advantage of the situation, there was nothing she could do. After hearing everyone's discussion, the slightly plump teacher raised her head to look at the big screen. Then she was stunned with her mouth wide open. "Pls read on AB0's Nov L. Sia, you listen to me. It seems that Group 250 is taking advantage of the situation again," Teacher Wen said with a dumbfounded look. When the crowd heard Teacher Wen's words, they asked one after another, "Teacher Wen, what do you mean?" The 3rd round of the test is about spiritual power and endurance, as well as teamwork. How can it be possible to take advantage of the situation? Teacher Wen laughed bitterly and then pointed at the big screen. "You'll know when you see it." Previously, the crowd did not pay much attention to Yun Chujio and Liang Hong's 2 groups. After all, there was no suspense about the outcome of the battle. Now that they heard Teacher Wen's words, they raised their heads and looked at the topographic map of the 2 groups. Each of the 2 groups participating in the battle were marked with red light spots and blue light spots respectively. The blue light spots and red light spots on the other topographic maps were 2 different routes. For example, one of the groups chose to approach the target from the east, while the other group chose to approach the target from the west. Even if the route chosen was not in 2 directions, it was at least very far away. They were afraid of being influenced by the other party and also to prevent the other party from knowing their progress. But what about Group 10 and Group 250? Chapter 2201 might really be able to create a miracle. The instructors craned their necks to watch. They saw the blue dot of light from Group 10 moving slowly in front, while the red dot of light from behind followed closely behind. However, they maintained a short distance, and judging from the topographic map, it looked like they were at most 10 miles away. The blue dot should be Group 10, and the red dot behind is Group 250. Why would they choose the same route? One of the instructors asked, puzzled. Another teacher slapped his thigh. "Oh God, I know." Group 250's wishful thinking was like a clap of thunder. They followed behind Group 10. So they naturally didn't need to waste their energy to deal with the demon beasts. They just needed to conserve their energy. At the last moment, they would think of a way to go around to the front of Group 10. Group 10 had been busy for a long time, but they were doing this for Group 250. Oh my God, Team 250 is too despicable. When the teachers heard this, they felt like they had just woken up from a dream. Their thoughts were exactly the same as that teacher's. This method was too despicable. If Team 10 knew the truth, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Do you guys think that Team 250 violated the rules this time? One of the teachers asked the crowd with uncertainty. Violated the rules? Which rule of ours stipulates that 2 groups must choose 2 different routes? This Group 250 has been able to find loopholes in our rules time and time again. They clearly know that they are opportunistic, but they have no way to punish them. They are simply too cunning. Yeah, I have conducted so many entrance tests, but this is the first time I have encountered such an unconventional examinee. I thought that Group 250 was so weak that it was impossible for them to pass. Now, I'm not so sure. Maybe Group 250 will really create a miracle. These teachers were bored. Teacher Wen invited Teacher Pang over and asked him to enlarge the topographic map of Yun Chujia's group. They all wanted to see if Group 250 would be able to succeed at the last moment. Teacher Pang had been busy with other things. When he came over and saw the situation on the topographic map, he was also dumbfounded. He reckoned that this method was thought up by that Mo Fangchao again. He didn't know whether he should praise her for being smart. Or was it that she was taking advantage of the situation? After Teacher Pang formed a seal with both hands, the topographic map of Yun Chujia's group was enlarged, revealing the situation inside. At this time, it was already the third day of the third round of the test. The 10th group had just killed a level 35 demonic beast. Everyone was panting heavily as they sat on the ground. PLs read on MYB0's Nov L. CO, and one of them said, "The test this time is quite difficult. These 2 days have really exhausted me. Fortunately, we will reach the finish line in half a day." Another person echoed, "Yeah, the level of the demonic beasts here aren't low. If it weren't for the 4 of us working together, I reckon our progress wouldn't be so fast." Liang Hong said proudly, "That's right. Even if our group's strength isn't ranked first, it can still be ranked in the top 5. That trash group still thinks they can compete with us. They really overestimate themselves. I reckon that they haven't even completed 1/3 of the journey. Their bodies must be riddled with injuries." The other 3 heard Liang Hong's words and laughed loudly. "Leader, you're right. If that trash group wants to beat us, the sun must have risen from the north." Teacher Wen, who was watching from outside, said faintly, "The sun might really rise from the north. This 10th group, TSK, there will be a good show to watch in a while." Chapter 2202 Red-Horned Golden Ring Python. The rest of the instructors also silently lit a candle for the 10th group. When the 10th group saw that they had exhausted most of their physical strength and spiritual power, the group 250, who had picked up the bargain, was in high spirits. However, some of the instructors had a different view. Although the 10th group has exhausted most of their physical strength and spiritual power, they are still much stronger than the group 250. Moreover, the 250th group still needs to take a detour. It's hard to say who will win. Hearing that, everyone felt that it made sense. Therefore, they were not sure which group would win. While they were discussing, they were paying attention to the progress of the matter. They saw that Mo Fangchao had already started to take a detour with the other 3 people. After Yun Chujio looked at the topographic map, she felt that the time was ripe. "We need to speed up now. Follow me." Xue Wuji and the other 2 had been holding back for the past 2 days. When they heard that they were finally going to make a comeback, they were excited and nervous as they followed Yun Chujio quickly. The 4 of them walked for about an hour before they encountered a level 35 red-horned gold-ringed python. Xue Wuji and the others felt their hearts tighten. This level 35 was equivalent to a human cultivator at the 8th level of the Lingxian realm. How could they defeat it? Attack together! Attack the red horn on its head! Yun Chujio shouted. Every minute and second was precious right now, so they had to seize the time. As Yun Chujio spoke, she waved her hands, and several purple lightning bolts shot toward the red horn on the head of the red-horned gold-ringed python. Heavens! She actually has a heavenly lightning spirit root. Teacher Wen cried out in surprise. Everyone was also extremely shocked. Although a heavenly lightning spirit root had appeared occasionally, it had basically died at the age of 10. This little girl actually had a heavenly lightning spirit root. It was really unexpected. It was probably because her spiritual power was too low that Tian Dao did not kill her. As her spiritual power increased, her life would probably be in danger. Just as everyone was thinking, they heard Teacher Wen exclaim, "That red-clothed kid actually has a mutated wind spirit root." Mutated wind spirit root? Everyone's gaze toward Xue Wuji became scorching hot. Wind spirit roots were much more popular than the little girl's heavenly thunder spirit root. Not only was the cultivation speed of a person with a mutated wind spirit root fast, but the power of a person with a mutated wind spirit root was much stronger than an ordinary spirit root when using the same spirit beast. PLs read on MYB0's Nov L. Although this examinee's spiritual power was currently low, as long as he was given some time, he would definitely be able to amaze everyone. At this moment, many teachers were leaning towards Yun Chuji's group because they felt that if they missed out on a mutated wind spirit root like Shui Wuji's, it would really be a loss for the Xingtian Academy. At this moment, Yun Chujio and the others were already fighting with the red-horned golden ring python. As expected, Yun Chujio and the other three fell into a disadvantageous position. Yun Chujio was thinking about the countermeasures as she fought. The talisman was definitely not usable. She was also afraid that her spiritual beast would be too unbelievable, so she did not plan to use it. Naturally, the puppet could not be used. How could she kill this damn red-horned golden ring python quickly? Yun Chuji's eyes suddenly lit up. There was a 10,000-year-old fire marrow in her right palm. This guy didn't care whether the 10,000-year-old fire marrow had intelligence or not. He used his spiritual sense to mumble, little flame, you said that you were staying in my palm. You didn't pay rent or anything. Are you embarrassed? No matter what, you are still a famous 10,000-year-old fire marrow. Can't you be generous and help me kill this little loach? If you help me this time, I will admit that you are the best fire in the world. Chapter 2203 was most likely bad feng shui. Hearing Yun Chuji's muttering, the little black bird inside the spiritual beast pouch pouted. This black-hearted master was obviously trying to trick Xiao Hanyo. Xiao Hanyo's 1,000 years fire marrow was the source of all fire seeds in the world. It was originally the most awesome fire. Why did she need you to admit it? That's not right. The most awesome fire should be my nirvana fire. Yun Chujio did not know what the little black bird was muttering about. She only felt a wave of heat in her right palm. Subconsciously, she fired several bolts of lightning at the red-horned golden-ringed python. The red-horned golden-ringed python did not care about the 4 humans in front of it at all. These 4 small fries would be able to kill them in less than 15 minutes. If one of Yun Chuji's group died, the entire group would be teleported out. This test would also fail. Just as the red-horned golden-ringed python was feeling proud, it saw the little girl's lightning strike towards its body. The other 3 people attacked the red horn on its head at the same time, so it was impossible for the red-horned golden-ringed python to completely avoid it. It felt that it would be fine as long as it avoided the red horn on its head. After all, its body was strong, so it would not be a problem for it to be struck by a few lightning strikes. Therefore, the red-horned golden ring python dodged the attacks of Shui Wuji and the other 2. Yun Chuji's lightning really struck its body. The red-horned golden ring python instantly felt a burning pain, and then nothing happened. Shui Wuji and the other 2 looked at the red-horned golden ring python that had turned into charcoal. They were so shocked that they could not speak. When did little Jiu's lightning become so powerful? Little Jiu's? Your lightning? Shui Wuji asked in surprise. Of course, Yun Chujio would not tell the truth. She giggled and said, my lightning will occasionally explode. This is also a new skill that I have recently discovered. However, this thing doesn't work at all. Don't idolize me anymore. Let's hurry up. Otherwise, it would be bad if the 10th group got there first. Shui Wuji and the other 2 completely believed Yun Chuji's truth because they could not think of any other explanation. After all, it was normal for abnormal things to happen to abnormal people. Really, it was very normal. The 3 of them calmly followed Yun Chujio away. The surrounding teachers who were watching could not stay calm anymore. PLs read on E0's Novo. Oh my god. Is the heavenly lightning spirit root so awesome? Those bolts of lightning just now actually directly turned the level 35 red-horned golden-ringed python into charcoal? Even people with spiritual void cultivation could not do it. Didn't that little girl also say that her lightning bolts would occasionally explode? Those lightning bolts probably contain the laws of heaven and earth. After all, she has the heavenly lightning spirit root. Although she's quite powerful, it's difficult to deal with her sometimes and sometimes. Moreover, she might be killed by the Tian Dao at any time, so I still don't think highly of her. You're right. I also think that the future of this Mo Fangchao is bleak. On the other hand, that Shui Wuji is not bad. He will definitely become a great asset in the future. While Teacher Guagua was discussing animatedly, Yun Chujio and the others had not walked far when they encountered a level 35 four-eyed red-tailed fox once again. Yun Chujio could not help but curse in her heart. Damn it, could it be that the feng shui of the route she chose was not good? How could they encounter a high-level demon beast in just a few steps? The four-eyed red-tailed fox shot wind blades at Yun Chujio and the others while using the charm technique. Its 4 eyes emitted a faint blue glow. Shui Wuji did not have any problems, but Mo Fangbing and Jin Ji could not hold on any longer. They were in a daze, and their movements were becoming slower and slower. Chapter 2204 was really a strange little girl. Yun Chujio had no choice but to push Jin Ji and Mo Fangbing to the side, telling them not to look into the eyes of the four-eyed red-tailed fox and to meditate for a while. Yun Chujio knew that time was pressing at the moment. It was definitely not possible to fight according to plan. She had to end the battle quickly. This fellow once again fooled the 10,000-year-old fire marrow in his palm. Dear little flame, you are indeed the most powerful fire in the world. Come, help me again. I will not mention the matter of rent in the future. Unfortunately, the 10,000-year-old fire marrow had most likely seen through this fellow's trick. In short, there was no reaction at all. Yun Chujio was so angry that she wished she could bite her right palm a few times. She could not count on the 10,000-year-old fire marrow anymore. Otherwise, she would use a spiritual beast. Just as Yun Chujio was about to release the spiritual piglet, Xiao Hanyo said smugly, "Master, have you forgotten my curse?" Yun Chujio was delighted. Yes, I was too busy. Quick, curse it." The little black bird began to curse with all its might. Just as the four-eyed red-tailed fox was about to release its wind blades, it suddenly staggered. Yun Chujio immediately fired several small purple needles at its vulnerable parts. Shui Wuji's skull of spiritual power also smashed at the four-eyed red-tailed fox's head. The four-eyed red-tailed fox felt that Yun Chujio's small purple needle had limited power, so it did not take Yun Chujio's small purple needle seriously. It only rolled on the ground and dodged Shui Wuji's skull of spiritual power. Boom, boom. After several explosions, the 7 orifices and rear orifices of the four-eyed red-tailed fox were blasted into a bloody mess. Then, the second wave of attacks from Yun Chujio and Shui Wuji arrived. The four-eyed red-tailed fox was already seriously injured. How could it bear it? A moment later, it was dead. The spectators were once again in a frenzy. Oh my God, that little girl's spiritual energy materialization is actually a needle? It's the first time I've seen such a powerful spiritual energy needle. This heavenly thunder spirit root is indeed extraordinary. Logically speaking, this spiritual energy needle should be a low-level materialization technique. Why do I see that those spiritual energy needles have some intelligence? P.S. read on IB0's Novo. You're right. The parts that the spirit energy needles attack are all different. It's obvious that they're selective. And did you guys notice? That Mo Fangkeo's movement technique is extremely fast. Even though she's at the 6th level of the spiritual venerable realm, it looks like she's even faster than Shui Wuji's movement technique. That's right. Her movement technique isn't even slower than someone at the 6th level of the spiritual profound realm. She really is an evil little girl. Apart from these praises, there were also some different opinions. Although that little girl's spirit energy needle is rather evil, they were able to defeat that four-eyed red-tailed fox mainly because that four-eyed red-tailed fox horse stumbled. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who would win. Everyone felt that he was right. There were still quite a number of demonic beasts behind them. They did not know if this group of 250 would be able to obtain the token before the 10th group. Teacher Pang was deep in thought. His focus was different from the others. The four-eyed red-tailed fox was best at the power of charm, but Shui Wuji and Mo Fangchao were not affected. It was likely that their spiritual roots had a certain resistance to the power of charm. Then why was Xue Wuji trapped in the 7 emotions and 6 desires array during the first round of the test? Teacher Pang thought for a moment and revealed a look of understanding on his face. It was likely that the scene Xue Wuji saw when he fell into the illusion was something he had always dreamed of. Therefore, he was unwilling to wake up despite knowing that it was an illusion. This was his inner demon. Teacher Pang sighed and looked at the big screen again. He saw that Xue Wuji and the other 3 were in trouble again. Chapter 2205 Formation Loophole. Yunchujio looked at the 4 level 35 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves in front of her. She was so angry that she cursed, "Fuck! It's already difficult to deal with one, and now there are 4 of them. This is purely because they don't want us to pass the test. Who exactly designed this stupid test? It's too shameless." The teachers were also not calm. This was not right. When they were designing, there were always individual demon beasts appearing. Why did 4 demon beasts suddenly appear this time? Moreover, they were of such a high level of spiritual power? Could it be that there was a loophole in the array formation? Teacher Pang frowned. Teacher 1, go to the array formation immediately and take a look. Is there a problem with the array formation? Why are there 4 high-level demon beasts? If it's a problem with the array formation, let them solve it immediately. Teacher 1 agreed and left quickly. In his heart, he was also biased towards Yun Chujio and the others. He wished that he could fly to the array formation immediately. Teacher 1 sprinted all the way to the array formation and explained the matter. The few teachers in charge of the array formation quickly checked. Then, they discovered a surprising, happy, and helpless fact. The array formation had given birth to a Qi Ling. Although the general direction of the array formation was still under their control, the Qi Ling was able to adjust some details on its own. In other words, the people at the array formation were also powerless when it came to what Yun Chujio and the others had encountered. Teacher Wen ran to the Divine Axe Square dejectedly and told everyone what had happened. A thought immediately flashed through everyone's mind. It seemed that this heavenly spirit root, which was not tolerated by the heavenly Tao, was actually going to help kill the Qi Ling. This Mo Fengkeo's future was really worrying. At this moment, Xue Wuji and the other 3 did not fight with the 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves on the screen. That little girl was talking to the 4 wolves. "For wolves, I'm really happy today," Yun Chujio said with a smile as if she did not say the curse just now. The 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves were stunned. Was this little girl sick? Or was she scared to death by them? Wasn't her mental endurance too weak? Little weaklings were indeed little weaklings. "Lord Wolves, do you think I'm sick?" "Actually, I'm very normal." The reason why I said I was very happy was that I didn't expect to see so many Lord Wolves who were as imposing as Sky Wolves all at once. To be able to die at your hands, I would die without regrets. The 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves were stunned. Serious? Serious were ancient demonic beasts, only slightly inferior to divine beasts. Were they really like Sirius? Yun Chujio was very smart. She had interacted with demonic beasts too many times and knew that demonic beasts valued the nobility of bloodlines. Thus, she continued to boast, "Sirius, although I've only seen Sirius' portrait, I feel that you must have Sirius bloodline. Who knows, you might one day activate the Sirius bloodline in your body. When that time comes, you will be the kings of this forest." Oh my god! I actually saw 4 Sirius in one go. I'm really lucky. I'm going to pass out from happiness. PLs read on AB0's Nov L. COM. The corners of Xue Wuji and the other 2's eyes twitched violently. If it weren't for the tense situation, they would definitely burst out laughing. "Little Gio, your lies are simply endless." The 4 bloodthirsty wind blade wolves felt dizzy. Could they really activate the Sirius bloodline in their bodies? If that was the case, it would be too wonderful. Alright, the 4 of them had already tacitly admitted that they had the Sirius bloodline in their bodies. Where did their confidence come from? That's right, this confidence was tricked by Yun Chujio. Chapter 2206. Riding a wolf to the finish line, the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves were immersed in their dream of becoming serious. They had long forgotten their goal. At this time, they only had one goal in their lives, and that was to become serious. Yun Chujio saw that the time was almost right. She said with a smile, "Sirs, the serious bloodline can only be activated when there is a suitable time. But I think that the spiritual power in the body is skyrocketing. Maybe it can really activate the bloodline." The four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves were stunned. The spiritual power in their bodies explodes? How could the spiritual power in their bodies explosively increase? It could only be done if they had eaten a heavenly treasure. However, where could they find a heavenly treasure? Sirs, are you suffering because you don't have a way to increase your spiritual power explosively? I do. Do you want to know? Shui Wuji and the other two seemed to have seen a furry fox tail growing out of Yun Chujia's back. No, it should be 9 tails. Perhaps only the 9-tailed fox had so much evil water. The four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves did not know that the person standing in front of them was a little demon. They thought that she was a kind and good girl. They looked at Yun Chujio with anticipation, waiting for her to continue. Sirs, you also know that we humans are good at refining pills. I have many bottles of instant spirit pills here. If you swallow them, your spiritual power will definitely soar. It might even trigger the serious bloodline in your body. Even if we can't trigger the serious bloodline, the spiritual power level will increase by 1 level. Do you want it? The four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves howled continuously. It was obvious that they were prepared to threaten Yun Chujio to hand over the pills. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. Sirs Wolf, there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. It's useless for you to threaten me. At most, we want past the test. We didn't have much hope anyway. If you want to get the pills and have the chance to activate the serious bloodline, there's only one way, and that's to escort us to the slope 30 miles away from here. When we get there, I'll naturally give you the pills. The four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves looked at each other and roared a few more times, obviously communicating. You don't have to worry that I won't keep my promise. I can swear on my inner demon oath. As long as you escort us to our destination, if I don't give you the pills, I'll be struck by lightning. Think about it, what a good deal this is. As long as we walk lightly for 30 miles, we will get the opportunity to activate the serious bloodline. After this village, there won't be such a shop anymore. The opportunity is reserved for beasts who are prepared. Roar, 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 roar. The four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves really couldn't stand Yun Chujia's boisterous chatter. They were even brainwashed into thinking that if they didn't seize this opportunity, they would be letting down their wolf skin. PLs read on IB0's Nov L. Com Yun Chujio saw the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves nod their heads in agreement. She rolled her eyes and said, "For wolves, we are too slow to walk. Carry us on your backs. This way, you can quickly obtain the pill that stimulates the serious bloodline." This fellow secretly changed his concept. It was clearly a pill that increased spiritual power. As he spoke, it turned into a pill that stimulated the serious bloodline. These four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves were also stunned by the deception. In a daze, they carried Yun Chujio and the other three and ran towards the finish line. The teachers in front of the display screen were already dumbstruck, their minds completely blank. Oh God, Earth. Was it because they hadn't woken up yet, or was the world changing quickly? That little girl had fooled the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves into carrying them to the finish line? Those were four beasts of the 35th rank. Chapter 2207. The opportunity for revenge had arrived. The teachers could no longer express their shock in words. All of them stared at the big screen with their eyes wide open. Could it be that the four bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves would really be obedient? Wouldn't they attack them ferociously midway? Shui Wuji and the other two were even more dumbfounded than the teachers. The three of them couldn't believe it even until they sat on the back of the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves. Weren't they still on the line of life and death 15 minutes ago? Why was little Gio so cocky? Now, these level 35 demon beasts had become their mounts? With the protection of 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves, the remaining 30 miles could be said to be unimpeded. Yun Chujio sat on the back of one of the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves. From afar, she could see the 4 people of Team 10 walking towards the finish line from the other direction. The 4 members of Team 10 were obviously exhausted, so they didn't walk very fast. Yun Chujio was afraid of alerting the enemy. She lowered her voice and said to the windblade wolf she was riding, "Master Wolf, speed up. Do you see those 4 people? They are all stopping us from reaching the finish line. We must overtake them." When the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolf heard Yun Chujio's words, a cold glint immediately appeared in its eyes. In its mind, stopping them from going to the slope meant stopping them from awakening the Sirius bloodline. It was simply courting death. In its heart, this bloodthirsty wind-blade wolf hated the 4 people from Team 10. When it got its hands on the medicinal pills, it would definitely bite those 4 little ants to death to vent its anger. The 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves increased their speed and quickly dashed towards the slope. The 4 members of Team 10 bragged proudly as they walked. "Do you guys think that trash team can make it halfway? They are so trash. I think that they can't even make it a third of the way, and they still want to compete with us? They are simply overestimating themselves." Hearing his companion's words, Liang Hong said arrogantly, "When we go out, we will humiliate them, especially that red-clothed one. He is just an embroidered pillow. I don't like him." At this time, one of them said in horror, "You look in front." Liang Hong and the other 2 looked in the direction of that person's finger and saw 4 bloodthirsty windblade wolves running toward the finish line. On the back of the bloodthirsty windblade wolves sat 4 people. It was actually Shui Wuji and the others. How is this possible? How could they tame 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves? The bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves are level 35 demonic beasts. One of them said in disbelief. PL's read on MIB0's Nov L. COM Liang Hong's reaction was faster. He shouted in exasperation, "Don't bother about that. It's more important to snatch the tokens. Go." Yun Chujio was sitting on the back of the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves. She naturally saw the actions of Liang Hong and the other 3. She rolled her eyes. The opportunity to take revenge had arrived. "Lord Wolf, put us down. You guys go deal with the 4 people. We'll go get the tokens. Don't worry. I've already sworn in my heart. I won't lie to you. If you kill them, I'll give you a few more bottles of pills to stop the bleeding." Yun Chujio lowered her voice and said to the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves. The bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves had long been displeased with the 4 people of the 10th group. Damn it, they actually stopped the little girl from getting the tokens. This was to stop them from awakening the Sirius bloodline. They really deserve to die. Yun Chujio and the other 3 jumped down from the backs of the bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves and headed straight for the slope. The 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves roared and pounced on Liang Hong and the other 3. Liang Hong and the other 3 felt as if their hearts had been bawled out. Were these 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves crazy? Why would they attack them? Chapter 2208 You're worse than animals naturally. No one answered the questions of Liang Hong and the others. Whether it was to vent their anger or to get the pills quickly, the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves had only one goal, which was to kill the 4 of them quickly. Liang Hong and the others were really unlucky. If there were only 2 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves, they could still deal with them if they worked together. However, 4 of them came at once. How could they be a match for them? Liang Hong and the other 3 quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. Their bodies were riddled with injuries and they were bitten until they cried for their parents. They were in a sorry state. At this time, Yun Chujio had already found the token. However, this fellow was also quite damaged. She clearly had the token in her hand. This test would be over and they and the 10th group would be teleported out. However, in order to let the 4 bloodthirsty windblade wolves teach Liang Hong and the others a lesson, this fellow did not pick up the token. He was prepared to pick it up when Liang Hong and the other 3 were about to die. Shui Wuji and the other 2 understood Yun Chujio's intention, so they stood aside and watched the show. No one picked up the token. The teachers outside the big screen twitched their lips. That black fragrant grass was really bad. They could have ended the test, but they just stood there and watched the show. Although they did not hear what Yunchujio said to the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves, they were certain that the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves were instigated by Yunchujio. That was why they were desperately biting Liang Hong and the others. The teachers who ate the melons suddenly had another impression of Yunchujio: revenge for the smallest grievance. However, the teachers who ate the melon didn't have any bad opinions about this. Cultivators were originally tougher than ordinary people, and if they were soft-hearted, only death awaited them. Moreover, the little girl didn't personally deal with Liang Hong and the others, so they couldn't catch her even if they wanted to. Yunchujio saw that Liang Hong and the other 3 were only left with their last breaths. Then she smiled and shouted at the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves, "For wolves, I've placed the medicinal pills here. Let's go, see you again. I have high hopes for you." After Yunchujio finished speaking, she took out the medicinal pills and placed them on the ground. Then she picked up the token. A white light flashed in front of her eyes, and when she regained her sight, she was already on the Divine Axe Square. Following that, the 4 people from Team 10 were also teleported out. Although there weren't any injuries on their bodies, it was clear that they hadn't walked out from the shadow of death yet. Each and every one of their faces were filled with shock and fear. PLs read on MIB0's Nov L. COM Yunchujio glanced at them. A bunch of brainless idiots. They even dared to ridicule her brother Wuji. They were really courting death. Shui Wuji glanced at the 4 of them with his slender phoenix eyes. He had always protected Yunchujio in the Tianyuan continent, but he did not expect Yunchujio to protect him in the immortal Yuan continent. He had never had such a strong desire to become stronger. Moreover, he had learned from Yunchujio that there was more than one way to win. Sometimes, tricks were more useful than fighting head-on. From then on, the middle school boy ran toward the path of blackness, never to return. Liang Hong finally came back to his senses. When he saw Yunchujio, he was instantly furious. He pointed at Yunchujio angrily and scolded, "Bitch! It's all your fault. You cheated. If you didn't let the 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves stop us, we would have won." Yunchujio sneered, "Can you grow a brain? Those 4 bloodthirsty wind-blade wolves are not my spiritual pets. How can I command them? You are obviously the ones who are so angry that even the demonic beasts are disgusted by you. That's why they attacked you. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being worse than the beasts." Chapter 2209. The 4th round of the test. Shui Wuji burst into laughter. "Little Sister Jio, your description is really fitting. You are indeed worse than a beast." Liang Hong's eyes were red with anger. He roared and pounced towards Yunchujio. "Bitch! You caused us to lose our eligibility to enter the academy. I'm going to kill you." Yunchujio was not stupid. Naturally, she would not wait to be beaten. With a whoosh, she ran to Teacher Pang's side. "Teacher Pang, help. This person is crazy. He wants to kill me." "Stop. Since they have already been eliminated, then let's leave Xingtian Academy and bring them out," Teacher Pang said in a deep voice. Teacher Pang was very clear about what had happened. Although he felt that Yunchujio had suffered some losses, Liang Hong and the other 3 had provoked her first. Moreover, they weren't strong enough, so they had to vent their anger on others. Such a person didn't have much potential. Liang Hong did not dare to disobey Teacher Pang's orders. He said to Yunchujio viciously, "Bitch, just you wait. From now on I, Liang Hong, will pay you back double for today's humiliation." The corners of Yunchujio's mouth curled up. "Have a safe journey. I won't send you off." Liang Hong and the other 3 nearly exploded in anger. What did he mean by have a safe journey? Why did it sound like he was sending himself to his death? Teacher Pang could not help but shake his head secretly. This little girl was smart, but the light was too bright. It was easy to make enemies. Sooner or later, she would be at a disadvantage. Forget it. If she could really enter the Sky Punisher Academy, then he would teach her. At this moment, the examinees were being transported out one after another. Those who succeeded were naturally elated, while those who failed were dejected. After all the eliminated examinees were brought out, Teacher Pang once again stepped onto the high platform, preparing to announce the contents of the fourth round of the test. Yun Chujio looked at Teacher Pang with a smile. This Sky Punisher Academy's test didn't follow the usual path. She didn't know what the fourth round of the test would be, so she was really looking forward to it. The first round tests your temperament. The second round tests your teamwork and trust. The third round tests your endurance and spiritual power. The fourth and final round tests your perception. You will be brought to the Xingtian Academy's Heavenly Dao Cliff. Those who can obtain the Heavenly Dao Cliff's heritage within 10 days will pass the test, and the rest will be eliminated. PLs read on MYB0's Nov L. COM. When the examinees heard Teacher Pang's words, they immediately exploded. Heavens! In the past, they had heard that the Heaven Punisher Academy had a Heaven's Path cliff that contained all sorts of inheritances of various sizes. They were all passed down by ancient cultivators. If they were able to obtain one, it would be a double blessing. Not only would they be able to enter the Heaven Punisher Academy, they would also be able to obtain the inheritance. Don't be happy too early. I heard that not everyone is able to obtain the inheritance. Furthermore, the content of the inheritance is also varied. Some people obtain sword techniques, while others obtain alchemy techniques. Some inheritances are useful, while others are useless. Who cares if they are useless? After all, if one obtains the inheritance, he will be able to enter the Heaven Punisher Academy. I wouldn't mind even if he were to give me a cooking inheritance. Yun Chujio's eyes sparkled as she listened to the discussions of the crowd. There's such a good thing? She didn't know if everyone could only obtain one inheritance. It would be great if they could obtain more than 100 inheritances. If others heard this fellow's thoughts, they would probably strangle her to death. 180 inheritances? It wasn't easy to even get one, all right? Teacher Pang coughed, and the examinees immediately quieted down. Teacher Pang waved his hand, and a teacher instructed the examinees to line up and lead the examinees to the Heavenly Dao Cliff. Chapter 22:10, Heavenly Dao Cliff. Yun Chujio walked and looked around. Not only did the Xingtian Academy cover a large area, but the buildings inside were also very simple and unadorned. Some of them even had a hint of a prehistoric aura. As she walked, she couldn't help but feel a sense of reverence. Of course, the reverence referred to other examinees. Yun Chujio would never have that kind of thing. Compared to those buildings, this fellow was more interested in the spirit fruit trees on both sides of the road. He couldn't help but wonder, are the students of the Heaven Punisher Academy all idiots? These spirit fruits were already ripe, yet no one picked them. What a waste of heavenly gifts. This fellow looked at the spirit fruit tree and swallowed his saliva. Little babies, wait for me. After I enter the examination, I will definitely bring all of you away. After walking for nearly 2 hours, everyone finally arrived at the legendary Heavenly Dao Cliff. Yun Chujio looked at the Heavenly Dao Cliff in front of her and could not help but be greatly disappointed. This was the Heavenly Dao Cliff? It did not look as spectacular as the stone wall that had imprisoned Little Flame back then. It was just a broken cliff. Was there really an inheritance inside? The examinees were still some distance away from the Heavenly Dao Cliff. Below the Heavenly Dao Cliff was a bottomless valley that was covered in clouds all year round. There were also people who wanted to explore what was below, but none of them returned. Even the spirit beasts that were put down to explore the path did not survive. As time passed, no one went down to take risks anymore. The deep valley below was also known as the Deep Valley of Hell. Teacher Pang saw that the examinees had already sat down according to the order and nodded. From now on, you should start comprehending the inheritance on the Heavenly Dao Cliff. The more concentrated your thoughts are, the easier it will be for you to succeed. After Teacher Pang finished speaking, he left the Tian Dao Cliff, leaving a few teachers on duty. Since they were comprehending the inheritance, there wouldn't be any problems. The examinees followed Teacher Pang's instructions, and after meditating, they concentrated their thoughts and looked at the Tian Dao Cliff not far away. Yun Chujio, this fellow, also meditated very seriously at the beginning. However, after looking at it for a long time, other than the bare broken stones, she didn't see anything else, let alone any inheritance. This fellow was getting impatient. Did she really have any so-called inheritance? Could she be lying? If there was an inheritance, the teachers of the Xingtian Academy would have long fought over it. Why would they leave it to them? It must be a lie. Even if there was an inheritance, the rest of the inheritances wouldn't be that good. P.L.S. read on Abiziro's novel. In fact, Yun Chujio had really judged a gentleman's heart with her petty heart. Everyone only had one chance to obtain the inheritance of the heavenly Tao cliff. Hence, the students and teachers who were studying had tried it before. The principal of Xingtian Academy also found that the students who had received the heavenly Tao cliff inheritance were more perceptive, so the heavenly Tao cliff inheritance was set up for the fourth test. Yun Chujio took out a spirit fruit from her storage ring and started to chew on it. Diao Xiaoyan was sitting behind her. When he heard Yun Chujio chewing on the spirit fruit, he immediately shouted angrily, "Stupid girl, do you have any sense of morality? Do you know how you affect others?" This time, Yun Chujio didn't say anything more, because this guy felt that what Diao Xiaoyan said made some sense, so he obediently put away the spirit fruit. Seeing that Yun Chujio didn't dare to argue this time, Diao Xiaoyan snorted proudly, "At least you know your place. With your talent, it's impossible for you to get the inheritance. Quickly give up and get lost." Yun Chujio suddenly stood up and stared at Diao Xiaoyan with an ice-cold gaze. Diao Xiaoyan couldn't help but tremble, and he shouted with a fierce look, What do you want to do?" Chapter 22:11. Three big-hearted people. Yun Chujio looked at him with disdain and ignored him. She walked to the side of a slightly chubby teacher. "Teacher Wen, during the process of comprehension, can we talk or eat or something? Or can we eat and sleep at the specified time?" Teacher Wen had a very good impression of Yun Chujio. He said with a smile, "This meditation is originally a cultivation of the mind. If you can't even bear the slightest disturbance from the outside world, it's impossible for you to get the inheritance. So during this period, as long as it's not a fight, you can do anything." Yun Chujio nodded. "Then I can rest assured. Otherwise, I'll feel guilty even if I eat a fruit." "Oh right, Teacher Wen, when I came here, I saw many spirit fruit trees by the roadside. Why didn't anyone pick the fruits on them? If no one is willing to take them, then they can all be mine. I don't mind them. Those spirit fruits belong to the academy. If they ripen, there will be handymen picking them." The corner of Teacher Wen's eyes twitched violently. "You are really shameless. And you don't mind them? Did I say that I would give them to you?" Teacher Wen thought for a moment and added, "The rules of the academy clearly stated that if you pick the spirit fruits privately, the corresponding points will be deducted. If the points are deducted to a negative number, then you can only withdraw from the academy." The purpose of Teacher Wen's words was to warn Yun Chujio not to have any ideas about those spiritual fruits. In the end, Yun Chujio automatically translated it as work hard to earn more points. In this way, she was not afraid of losing points after picking the spiritual fruits. Not long after, when Teacher Wen found out that the spiritual fruits of the academy had been taken by someone, he was filled with regret. Yun Chujio chatted with Teacher Wen for a while before she jumped back to her seat. This guy took out a recliner and sat on it. While reading the script, he nibbled on the spirit fruit. He looked very relaxed and at ease. Diao Xiaoyan, who was behind him, had already heard Teacher Wen's words. Naturally, he couldn't say that Yun Chujio was eating and disturbing his meditation. He glared at Yun Chujio a few times and walked to the other side to meditate. Seeing Yun Chujio like this, Shui Wuji asked in a low voice, "Little Jiao, why aren't you continuing to meditate?" "Brother Wuji, meditating is about luck. What's yours is yours after all, not yours. Even if your eyeballs pop out, it won't be yours. Besides, isn't it a total of 10 days? There's no rush. Let's relax for a few days first. These few days have worn me out." Shui Wuji's personality had always been willful. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, This fellow also stood up and took out a recliner from his storage ring. He lay on it and closed his eyes to bask in the sun. Seeing Yun Chujio and Xue Wuji like this, Jin Ji decided to follow their example. She also made a deck chair and lay on it with her eyes closed. PL's read on AB0's Nov L. Xiom Imo Fangbing was not as free and easy as the three of them. She still sat on the ground and meditated. The other teachers looked at Yun Chujio and the other two with dumbfounded expressions. These three examinees were really big-hearted. Are you here to take the entrance exam or are you here for a field trip? One of the teachers couldn't stand it anymore. Yun Chujio and Jin Ji were fine. Xue Wuji had a mutated wind spirit root. If he couldn't pass the exam, it would be a loss for Xingtian Academy. Thus, that teacher walked up to Xue Wuji and said with a sullen face, "Xue Wuji, why aren't you grasping the epiphany? What are you doing?" Although Xue Wuji had a grumpy temperament, he would still put on an act when it was time to put on an act. He stood up and said respectfully, "Thank you for your advice, teacher. I was just too tired in the third round, so I plan to rest for a while. Don't worry, I've rested enough. I'll meditate and meditate soon." Chapter 22:12 Xue Wuji, who had excellent perception seeing that Xue Wuji's attitude was so good, the teacher didn't say anything more. He gave a few instructions before leaving. The teacher returned to his original spot and suddenly frowned. Something wasn't right. Why would their group 250 be tired in the third round? They had only dealt with 2 demon beasts. In the end, they rode the bloodthirsty wind blade wolf to the slope. How could they be tired to the point of wanting to sleep? The other teams were much more tired than them, but they didn't see Xue Wuji sleeping either. This Xue Wuji was really too lazy. It was difficult for him to become a great person. Xue Wuji didn't care whether he was a great person or a small person. This fellow was very comfortable lying on the recliner. He thought to himself, "Little Sister Jiao is truly insightful. This lousy inheritance is yours if it's not yours. Even if I'm exhausted to death, I won't be able to get it." Just as Xue Wuji was thinking about this, he felt a white light flash before his eyes. His entire body fell off the recliner. Yun Chujio was shocked. Just as she was about to help Xue Wuji up, she heard the teacher from earlier shout, "Don't touch him. He has obtained the inheritance." Yun Chujio. Heavens! Did Wu Zhe's brain have to be so lucky? He actually obtained the inheritance so quickly? Everyone present had the same thought. Xue Wuji's comprehension ability was actually so good? That wasn't right. He was just lying on the recliner and didn't comprehend at all. How did he obtain the inheritance? At this moment, they heard the teacher say, "Did you see that? You have to learn from Xue Wuji. Even when he sleeps, he thinks about comprehending the inheritance. What about you guys? While comprehending, you might be sleeping." The examinees. At this moment, Xue Wuji had already stood up and started meditating. It was obvious that he was digesting the content of the inheritance. The teacher said to the crowd, "The higher the level of the inheritance, the longer the time to comprehend it. No one is to disturb Xue Wuji. After he finishes comprehending, he will naturally wake up." PL's read on MIB0's Nov L. COM. After saying that, the teacher even glared at Yun Chujio. The meaning was obvious. He warned her not to disturb Xue Wuji's comprehending of the inheritance. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. She was not Xue Wuji's enemy. How could she have the time to disturb Xue Wuji's comprehension? Yun Chujio once again lay on the recliner, reading the script and nibbling on the fruit. However, this time, many examinees imitated Yun Chujio and made recliners to lie on. Those who did not have a recliner simply made a chair to lie on. The reason was very simple. They all thought that Xue Wuji was able to comprehend because he was lying on the deck chair. Yun Chujio almost choked on the spirit fruit. Did these people have to be so funny? They were really like a dog that drew a tiger instead of a dog. A bunch of idiots. The faces of the teachers also stiffened, but they did not say anything. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Xue Wuji was still in a meditative position. It was obvious that he hadn't finished receiving the inheritance. The teachers were all abnormally excited. This meant that the inheritance Shui Wuji had received must be of a very high level. The mutated wind spirit root was indeed extraordinary. In the blink of an eye, it was the 8th day. Shui Wuji was still receiving the inheritance. In addition, other people began to receive the inheritance one after another. However, the time taken to receive the inheritance was very short. At most, it was only a few hours. Yun Chujiu, on the other hand, could not sit still. Not only did Jin Ji and Mo Fangbing comprehend the inheritance, even Diao Xiaoyan had comprehended an inheritance. She was the only one who had yet to gain anything. Diao Xiaoyan said proudly to Yun Chujiu, "Darn girl, your companions have all obtained the inheritance. You are the only one who has yet to gain anything." TSK. In the end, everyone else entered the Xingtian Academy. You are the only one who did not pass. Just thinking about it makes me feel sad for you. Chapter 22:13 Mo Fangchao committed suicide by jumping off a cliff. Yun Chujiu shot a glance at Diao Xiaoyan. You're not my son, and you're not my grandson. You don't have to be so filial and worry about me. Go back to where you came from. Some of the examinees who had already received the inheritance immediately burst into laughter. They were worried that they would not have any fun and wished that the two of them could fight. Diao Xiaoyan scolded angrily, "Bitch? Who are you scolding?" "I'm scolding my grandson." "Why, do you have a problem with that?" Yun Chujiu was already a little angry since she could not receive the inheritance. Now that Diao Xiaoyan was asking for a beating, she naturally would not be polite. Diao Xiaoyan was almost suffocated by the rebuke. If he continued to scold, wouldn't he admit that he was a grandson? Diao Xiaoyan's companion walked over and tugged at Diao Xiaoyan. "Jing Tai, it's already the 8th day and she hasn't received the inheritance yet. She will definitely be eliminated. Why do you have to lower yourself to the level of a good-for-nothing?" Diao Xiaoyan had a way out and glared at Yun Chujiu. "Bitch, I'm too lazy to waste my breath on you. Just wait to be eliminated." "Isn't it just an inheritance? What's so great about it? I'll be comprehending it soon too." Yun Chujiu pouted. Everyone felt that Yun Chujiu was being stubborn. Although there were still 2 days left, the chances of her successfully comprehending it were too low. There was a high chance that she would be eliminated. Jin Ji and Mo Fangbing were also very worried. Jin Ji was really worried about Yun Chujiu. As for Mo Fangbing, more than half of the reason was that she wanted to have a companion. Otherwise, she wouldn't feel confident if she entered the Xingtian Academy. Yun Chujiu comforted the two of them a few times before starting to meditate. In the blink of an eye, it was already the 10th day. Shui Wuji was still receiving the inheritance, but Yun Chujiu, this wretched thing, still had no results. This time, even she herself didn't feel confident. Fuck, could it be that she could only watch and wait to be eliminated? This fellow really couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and walked forward for some distance. She was prepared to get closer to the Heavenly Dao Cliff. If she took a closer look, she might be able to gain something. Needless to say, if she got closer, she would feel something different. It was as if she could feel the ancient aura on the Heavenly Dao Cliff. This fellow couldn't help but get closer and closer. She was only 1 step away from the cliff. Yun Chujiu was concentrating on her comprehension when she suddenly felt a huge suction force coming from the bottom of the cliff. Her body couldn't help but lean forward, and she fell head first. PL's read on E0's Novo. COM, oh my god. Mo Fangchao jumped off the cliff to commit suicide. She must have jumped off the cliff because she couldn't comprehend the inheritance. Yun Chujiu, who had been falling, was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Damn it. You all just jumped off the cliff to commit suicide. I was framed. Framed. At this moment, everyone on the Heavenly Dao Cliff was in an uproar. Especially Jin Ji, who was going crazy. Little Jiu. Little Jiu. Jin Ji shouted and was about to jump down, but was stopped by Teacher Wen. This is the deep valley of hell. You can't be rash. But what about little Jiu? She fell down. She definitely didn't commit suicide. She must have fallen down by accident. Teacher Wen, I beg you, please quickly think of a way to save little Jiao. Ji cried as she pleaded with Teacher Wen. Teacher Wen sighed. How could I not want to save her? But this is the deep valley of hell. Not to mention me, even the mighty ones from the immortal Yuan continent wouldn't dare to go down. Going down would only lead to death. Seeing that Teacher Wen and the other teachers had no intention of saving Yun Chujio, Ji struggled to break free from Teacher Wen and was about to jump down. In a moment of desperation, Teacher Wen could only knock Ji unconscious with a slap and hand her over to Mo Fangbing to take care of. Chapter 22:14 Jumping off a cliff. Although Mo Fangbing was also worried about Yun Chujio, their relationship was not good enough. In order to save Yun Chujio, she had to sacrifice her own life, so she was still calm. Teacher Pang rushed over when he heard the news, but he could only sigh. This deep valley of hell had no return. The little girl was doomed. At this time, Xue Wuji opened his eyes and stood up happily. He looked around but did not see Yun Chujio. He only saw Jinji standing at the side with red eyes. Xue Wuji's heart skipped a beat. Jinji, where's little sister Jiao? Jinji cried out loud. Little sister Jiao fell down the cliff. I wanted to jump down to save her, but they stopped me from doing so. Xue Wuji's eyes immediately turned red. What? How did little sister Jiao fall down? Little sister Jiao stood at the edge of the cliff to comprehend the inheritance. I don't know how she suddenly fell down. Before Jinji could finish her words, Diao Xiaoyan said with disdain, she probably thought that she couldn't get into Xingtian Academy, so she jumped off the cliff to commit suicide. It's good that such a good-for-nothing is dead. Just as Diao Xiaoyan was feeling proud of himself, he felt that his neck was tightly grasped by someone. He saw Xue Wuji staring at him with red eyes, which were full of coldness. Xue Wuji, what are you doing? Let go of me. Teacher Pang shouted angrily. A few teachers came over and pulled Xue Wuji away. Diao Xiaoyan kept coughing. It was not easy for him to catch his breath, but he did not dare to say a word. Xue Wuji was the same as Jinji. He begged Teacher Pang and the others to save Yun Chujio, but the answer he received was still that no one could save Yun Chujio. There was no way to return to this deep valley of hell. There was no way to survive if you fell into it. There was no need to sacrifice another life for a dead person. Xue Wuji's expression gradually calmed down. Everyone thought that he had been convinced, so they let down their guard. At this moment, Xue Wuji ran to the edge of the cliff and jumped down. Jinji followed closely behind. Mo Fangbing's eyes flickered a few times, but she still couldn't move her feet. Although Mo Fangbing was a good grass person, there was no need to jump down when she knew it was death. When Teacher Pang and the others saw that Xue Wuji and Jinji had jumped down, they stomped their feet anxiously. Wasn't this sending themselves to their deaths in vain? P.L.S. read on AB0's Nov L. COM everyone sighed. Not only was Xue Wuji a mutated wind spirit root, but he had also just received the inheritance. He actually died just like that. It was truly lamentable. However, many people were moved by Xue Wuji and Jinji. What kind of friendship was this that allowed them to jump down even though they knew they were going to die? Such a pure heart was really rare. However, no matter what, the fourth round of the test ended with such a regretful ending. A total of 500 people received the inheritance. Teacher Pang announced that 3 days later, the students who had been accepted officially started school. Then, everyone dispersed, and the heavenly Dao cliff once again returned to peace. After Xue Wuji and Jinji jumped off the cliff, they only felt the whistling sound of the wind in their ears. The ground below was covered by clouds and mist, and nothing could be seen. Xue Wuji and Jinji planned to use their swords to fly, but they were horrified to find that they could not use their swords at all. It was actually forbidden to fly here. A thought flashed through their minds. They were doomed. They were doomed. However, the two of them did not regret it. If they really abandoned Yun Chujio, they would be in pain and blame for the rest of their lives. After passing through the layer of clouds, both of them saw the dense white bones below. They guessed that they were the bones of humans or demonic beasts that had fallen from the past. Both of them felt a chill in their hearts. They would soon become one of these white bones. If they landed on the ground, they would be smashed into pieces. Chapter 22:15 was too emotional. Just as Shui Wuji and Jin Ji thought that they were going to die, they heard someone shout from below, "Stab the stone wall with the sword to slow down the falling speed." The two of them didn't have time to think. They quickly followed the instructions of the person below and stabbed the stone wall with the sword, wanting to hang their bodies in the air. Although they tried several times without success, they slowed down their falling speed. In the end, the two of them landed on top of a pile of sacks. Tsk tisk. Fortunately, I was quick-witted and remembered that there are dozens of sacks of talismans in my storage ring. Otherwise, the two of you would have been seriously injured even if you didn't die. Although Shui Wuji and Jin Ji slowed down their speed with their swords and fell on top of the pile of sacks, they still fell hard. It took them a while to recover. When they raised their heads, they saw that it wasn't Yun Chujio who was speaking. "Little Jio, are you alright?" "That's great." Jin Ji cried and laughed. It was great that little Jio wasn't dead. Although Shui Wuji didn't say anything, his slender phoenix eyes were slightly red. It was obvious that he was very happy to see Yun Chujio safe and sound. Yun Chujio's eyes were red as she scolded angrily, "Are you guys stupid? You know that jumping down means death. Why did you jump down? Don't you know that I'm a scourge that can't die?" Jin Ji struggled to get up and hugged Yun Chujio. "I don't care if you're a scourge or not, I can't just watch you die." Yun Chujio wiped her tears with her sleeve. "Damn, this is too emotional. Yun Chujio, didn't live in vain to have such a good friend." After a long while, the three of them finally calmed down. Shui Wuji asked, "Little sister Jio, what's going on? Why did they say that you committed suicide?" "2E. Am I someone who would commit suicide? I was perfectly fine while I was meditating on the inheritance. Who would have thought that a huge force would attack me from below? I didn't even have time to react before I fell down. After I discovered that this place was forbidden from flying, I used the sticky silk and the treasured sword to slow down the speed of my descent. Only then did I manage to save my life. I was just about to use the sticky silk to climb up when I unexpectedly saw the two of you idiots fall down. I'm warning you, don't be stupid next time. Even a scourge like me, Tian Dao, can't kill me. It'll definitely be safe and sound. Although I'm very touched, it'll say something that you don't like to hear. If you jump down, you'll become a burden to me. So, don't be stupid next time. Do you hear me?" Yun Chujio knew that Shui Wuji and Jin Ji would be unhappy if she said that. However, with her unlucky physique, she would encounter this situation many times in the future. She had to be ruthless and warn them, otherwise, these two idiots would be in danger again in the future. PLs read on MIB0's Nov L. COM Shui Wuji and Jin Ji were reasonable people. They did not get angry after hearing Yun Chujio's words. They only nodded, indicating that they would be calmer next time and would not be impulsive. "Little sister Jio, since you have the sticky wire in your hand, you can climb up first. Then, you can lower the rope to save us." Yun Chujio sighed. "I tried a few times just now and found that there was a liquid on the cliff wall. I don't know what it is, but after the sticky wire got on the cliff wall, the stickiness was greatly reduced. I was afraid that I would fall down halfway, so this method didn't work." Shui Wuji and Jin Ji were stunned. When they fell down just now, they were so focused on saving their lives that they didn't look carefully. They walked to the cliff wall and saw that the cliff wall was indeed covered with some kind of liquid. It was very slippery. Chapter 22:16. The Strange Valley. Little sister Jio, how are we going to get up there? Don't expect anyone to come down and save us. Those people are all afraid of death, and they even said that this is some deep valley of hell. I don't think it's a big deal here. Those people probably fell to their deaths. Shui Wuji curled his lips and said, "An Feng should inform Prince Charming when he hears the news. They will come and save us. But Prince Charming might not be able to escape, and it will take some time to get here, so we'd better save ourselves. Yun Chujio frowned when she said this. Brother Wuji, besides, I think there must be something strange down here. These people can't all have fallen to their deaths. There might be something scary down here. Moreover, I don't know what damn thing sucked me down. There must be something down here. Jin Ji nodded. What little Jio said makes sense. Even if the people up there fell to their deaths, what's with the bones of these demon beasts? So there must be something dangerous here. Alright, what you guys said makes sense. What should we do next? Wait here for Beiming to save us? Yun Chujio stretched her neck and looked around. Let's go somewhere else. Maybe there's another way out. Therefore, the three of them carefully walked forward. Although there was a thick cloud in the air, the visibility of the valley was not bad. It was lush and green. If there were no thick bones on the ground, it was no different from an ordinary valley. The valley was narrow and long. The three of them had walked for nearly 2 hours, but they did not encounter a single living creature. Jin Ji said with a slight tremble, How is it? I told you there was something strange down there, right? Maybe there are powerful high-level demon beasts or evil cultivators here. Yun Chujio's eyes were sparkling. Beauty Jin Ji, this matter needs to be looked at from 2 sides. Maybe there is a great treasure down there. Alright, Brother Wuji, what inheritance did you get? Shui Wuji immediately straightened his back. He said smugly, I got a cultivation technique with mutated wind spirit root. The cultivation technique I used to cultivate was only mid-grade earth rank, but this is a high-grade heaven rank cultivation technique. Sister Xiaojiu, in time, I will soar to the sky. When that time comes, I will beat up anyone who bullies you. Yun Chujio was happy for Shui Wuji. She could not help but mutter, all of you have received the inheritance. Even that Diao Xiaoyan has received the inheritance. Why am I the only one who has not received the inheritance? It was not easy for her to see through the trick. She did not expect to be sucked down. Damn it, if I know who is behind this, I will kill him. The three of them chatted as they walked. The sky gradually darkened. Yun Chujio was a little hungry. Yun Chujio looked around. Other than the lush vegetation, the ground was completely covered in white bones, so she said, Brother Wuji, move these bones away. We'll sleep here tonight. PLs read on OIB0's Nov L. COM Shui Wuji nodded and used his spiritual power to move the white bones on the ground away. It was unknown when these white bones were left. After clearing one layer, there was another layer below. Shui Wuji cleaned it for a long time before clearing out a small area. Yun Chujio frowned. Brother Wuji, this is too slow. I might as well burn a part of the plants. As Yun Chujio spoke, she released Xiao Hanyo and had it spit a fireball at a plant not far away. What the three of them did not expect was that after the fireball burned, a sharp cry came from the entire valley. The plants in the valley began to grow crazily. The plants that originally looked normal grew sharp thorns on their leaves and stems and spread toward Yun Chujio and the other two. Chapter 22:17, Terrifying demonic plants. Yun Chujio and the other two turned pale with fright. They never thought that there weren't any terrifying demonic beasts or evil cultivators in the deep valley of hell. Instead, all the plants in the entire valley were demonic plants. No wonder there were no living creatures here. No demonic beasts could escape from the encirclement of such a large area of demonic plants. The three of them didn't have time to think too much. They began to attack the demonic plants that were constantly spreading. However, they did not expect that many vines of the demonic plants would appear underground. The three of them had to dodge the vines on the ground while also having to worry about the underground attacks. They soon lost the ability to resist. Yun Chujio wanted to use the talisman and the puppet, but she realized that the talisman was ineffective, so she could only release the 4 dumb beasts. Xiao Hanyo drilled into the ground and bit off the vines. Xiao Hong, the red fox, and Xiao He used fire to attack the demonic plants while Xiao Mogu used the mycelium to corrode the demonic plants. With the help of the 4 silly cuties, Yun Chujio and the other two could finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, this was definitely not a long-term plan. Before long, the 4 silly cuties would not be able to withstand it. After all, there were simply too many demonic plants. Yun Chujio was so anxious that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. What should she do? The entire valley was filled with demonic plants. Not to mention the few of them, even 1,000 people might not be able to destroy such a large area of demonic plants. Yun Chujio thought of Xiao Hanio's Nirvana fire, but she felt that it was not feasible. The range of the Nirvana fire's attack was limited, and the price was too high. Perhaps the little black bird would sleep for a few years or even decades. Yun Chujio could only ask the little flame in her right palm for help. Little flame, listen to me. If I turn into a white bone, you won't be able to recover. You might even be eaten by these demonic plants after you've cultivated your intelligence. They will definitely like the taste of you. Just as Yun Chujio was smacking her lips, her right palm began to heat up. This fellow's heart was filled with joy, and he quickly fired several bolts of lightning at the demonic plants not far away. A wisp of flame was mixed in the purple lightning, and the few demonic plants that were struck instantly turned into charcoal. Shui Wuji was delighted. Little Sister Jiao, your timing is too bad. Burn him to death. With the help of the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, the 3 of them finally managed to temporarily burn a small piece of the surrounding demonic plants into charcoal. The nearby demonic plants were obviously a little afraid, and both sides were in a stalemate. Yun Chujio and the other 2 quickly took advantage of this opportunity to eat and drink some water. They knew that the demonic plants would continue to pounce on them. After all, they had not touched meat for many years. PLs read on MIB0's Nov L. COM as expected, not long after, the demonic plants made a comeback. As the night grew darker, the attack power of the demonic plants was stronger than before. Yun Chujio finally understood. If she had not asked Xiao Hanio to burn the demonic plants with fireballs, the demonic plants would have waited until the dead of night to launch a sneak attack on them. If that was the case, the 3 of them would have been caught off guard and the result would have been even worse. Fortunately, they had stumbled upon the terrifying demonic plants in time. With the 10,000-year-old fire marrow as a helper, Yun Chujio and the other 2 could still barely hold on. However, Yun Chujio noticed that the temperature on her palm was starting to decrease, and she knew that it was bad. The 10,000-year-old fire marrow was still in its infancy stage, and it was likely that its power was about to be exhausted. Once the 10,000-year-old fire marrow could not be used, the 3 of them would really be dead. Yun Chujio was so anxious that she gritted her teeth. Could it be that they would only end up as a pile of bones? She tried to absorb the juice of these demonic plants, but these demonic plants were different from the poisonous vines. They did not secrete venom. They only wrapped themselves around people to suffocate them, so there was no effect at all for her to absorb their juice. Chapter 22:18. What were they afraid of? Could it be that they could only wait for death? No. They had endured so much suffering, how could they not be able to deal with these demonic plants? There must be a way. Yun Chujio forced herself to calm down. Since these demonic plants were so powerful, why didn't they spread out of the valley? They could have climbed up the cliff, and then they could reproduce on the Heavenly Tao cliff and expand their territory. Why didn't they do that? At this moment, the 10,000-year-old fire marrow in Yun Chujio's hands stopped working. The demonic plants began to attack the 3 of them even more crazily. Yun Chujio had no choice but to release the 4 dumb beasts to help. She felt that she had already thought of the key point. She was just a little bit away from finding a solution. Therefore, she shouted at Shui Wuji and Jin Ji, "Why don't you tell us why these demonic plants didn't climb up the cliff wall?" "Of course. They must be afraid of something," Shui Wuji said casually. Yun Chujio was stunned. Yes, they must be afraid of something? Then what were they afraid of? Were they afraid of the Heavenly Tao cliff? No, the Heavenly Tao cliff was just one side of the stone wall. They could climb up from the other side. What were they afraid of? Yun Chujio subconsciously looked at the stone wall. Not only were there no demonic plants climbing up the stone wall, but there were also no demonic plants growing near the stone wall. Yun Chujio suddenly had an idea. Quick, let's go under the stone wall. These demonic plants must be afraid of the slippery liquid on the stone wall. Hearing that, Shui Wuji and Jin Ji did not have time to think. They fought and retreated at the same time. After a lot of effort, the three of them finally reached the bottom of the stone wall. Yun Chujio took out a piece of red cloth and rubbed it against the stone wall. Then she waved it at the demonic plants. The effect was extremely obvious. The demonic plants were very afraid of the red cloth. They were even more afraid than when they encountered the 10,000-year-old fire marrow. They suddenly shrank back and did not dare to attack any further. Shui Wuji and Jin Ji followed suit. They took out their clothes from their storage rings. After rubbing the liquid on them, they waved it at the demonic plants. Finally, they temporarily stopped the demonic plants from attacking. PLs read on IB0's Nov L. COM Yun Chujio put the 4 spiritual pets into her storage ring and sat on the stone wall, panting heavily. Jin Ji also sat on the ground. Shui Wuji was the only one who held on. He stared at the demonic plants vigilantly, afraid that they would suddenly attack. Brother Wuji, it's okay. Sit down. These liquids are very intimidating to the demonic plants. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any demonic plants near the stone wall. Yun Chujio said while panting. Upon hearing Yun Chujio's words, Shui Wuji took out another piece of clothing and rubbed it against the stone wall. Then, he stood in front of the three of them and sat down on the ground. Little Sister Jio, if you didn't suddenly think of these liquids, we would definitely be in deep trouble today. No wonder this place was called the Deep Valley of Hell. It turned out that it was because of these demonic plants. If it weren't for these liquids, even if thousands of people came down, they would still be in deep trouble. Shui Wuji let out a long breath and said. Jin Ji also said with lingering fear, yes. Fortunately, little Jio is smart. Otherwise, we would definitely be dead. We are only safe for the time being. Those demonic plants might attack us from underground. Therefore, we need to rest for a while and do some defensive work. Yun Chujio thought for a while and said. After a while, the three of them had almost rested. Yun Chujio brought out the Xiaohei rat and let it dig a hole about 2 people high above the ground. Chapter 22:19, The cave Xiaohei's digging speed was very fast. In less than 2 hours, he had dug a cave that was enough for 3 people to live in. The 3 of them climbed into the cave and finally let out a sigh of relief. This time, the demonic plants had no way to attack them. This also provided a way for everyone to escape. As long as Xiaohei dug out a hole, they could climb up the stone steps. However, considering the height of the valley from the cliff, this was a long process. It might take a few months to complete. Moreover, there might be the danger of falling during the climb. However, no matter what, they had finally found a way out. After discussing, the 3 of them decided to wait here for 5 days. If Di Baiming did not come to save them after 5 days, they would let Xiaohei rat dig a hole. Sleepiness gradually came. Shui Wuji was on guard at the entrance of the cave while Yun Chujio and Jin Ji fell to the ground and fell asleep. After daybreak, Yun Chujio and Jin Ji were on guard. Only then did Shui Wuji lie down to rest. Yun Chujio squatted at the entrance of the cave and looked down. Perhaps it was because of the day, the demonic plants had returned to their normal plant form, as if the attack from yesterday had never happened. Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. When they had just fallen, the demonic plants did not attack them either. Perhaps these demonic plants would only attack when the sky turned dark. In order to verify her thoughts, Yun Chujio jumped to the ground and released a Windblade rabbit from the Great Void Mystic Realm. The Windblade rabbit was clearly confused. Seeing the plants in front of it, it hopped and ran towards them. When the Windblade rabbit hopped on the white bones, the demonic plants did not respond. It was not until the Windblade rabbit approached the demonic plants and wanted to eat them that the demonic plants attacked. The attack power of the demonic plants had decreased a lot compared to last night. This proved that Yun Chujio's idea was right. The attack power of the demonic plants was greatly weakened during the day, so they would not take the initiative to attack. PLs read on MIB0's Nov L. COM Yun Chujio touched her chin. In that case, she could take advantage of the day to explore the situation ahead. At worst, she could let Xiao He dig a hole in the cliff wall at night. When Xue Wuji woke up in the afternoon, Yun Chujiu told Xue Wuji and Jin Ji about her idea. The two of them completely agreed. Rather than waiting passively, it was better to explore the front. Since they already knew the weakness of the demonic plants, they would not be at a disadvantage. Therefore, the next morning, the three of them ate breakfast and jumped down from the cave. They tried to walk forward for a distance, but the demonic plants did not respond. The three of them continued to walk carefully until they reached the end of the valley in the afternoon. There was actually a cave at the end of the valley. There were still no demonic plants growing near the cave. The three of them hesitated. Should they go in or not? Yun Chujiu took out a wind-blade rabbit from the great void mystic realm and drove it into the cave. The three of them listened carefully, but there were no screams. After a while, there was still nothing unusual. The three of them then walked into the cave. The temperature inside the cave was slightly lower than the temperature outside. Fortunately, the three of them were all cultivators, so they could withstand it. Yun Chujiu took out the luminous pearl to illuminate the cave. She found that the deeper they went into the cave, the wider it became. What interested Yun Chujiu was that there was a kind of wet liquid on the walls and the ground in the cave. This could explain why there were no demonic plants here. Chapter 22:20 A beautiful flower. Yun Chujiu and the other two carefully walked into the depths of the cave. There was nothing else in the cave except for the slippery liquid. The three of them could not help but be curious. What could be in the depths of the cave? What was this slippery liquid? After walking for nearly an hour, light began to shine in front of them. The three of them were delighted and sped up. When the three of them saw the scene in front of them, they widened their eyes in surprise. They saw a huge pool in front of them. The fog was dense. It was likely that the fog was the source of the slippery liquid. What surprised the three of them even more was that in the middle of the pool was a small piece of bare land. There was a plant growing on it. More accurately, it was a flower. The three of them had never seen such a beautiful plant. Its leaves were verdant and dripping, and the flower on it was like a ruby that was shining with a dazzling luster. That flower was emitting a gentle light. Everything was so beautiful that it made people feel like they were in a fairyland on earth. Just as the three of them were feeling extremely surprised, something that shocked them even more happened. The flower actually spoke in human language. "Woo woo, I finally saw someone coming. Save me. Save me." Yun Chujiu and the other two were shocked. The level of the demonic plant that could speak human language was frighteningly high. How could there be such a high-level demonic plant here? Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes and asked, "Save you? What kind of demonic plant are you? How did you get trapped here?" The light emitted by the flower dimmed a little. "I'm not a demonic plant. I'm the 9 revolutions crimson immortal grass, an immortal-ranked spiritual plant. I was growing well under the heavenly Tao cliff. One day, an evil cultivator came and wanted me to acknowledge him as my master. I would rather die than submit. He used this netherworld water to trap me and wanted me to submit. Pooey! I want submit. Tens of thousands of years have passed just like that. Little Gio, this flower is so pitiful. Let's save it," Jin Ji said with red eyes. Pls read on Ibizero's Novel. Siom, yes, little fairy, save me. The flower said pitifully. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. How can I save you? As long as you swim over and drop your blood on my flower heart, you will be my master. Then I can follow you out, the flower said anxiously. I'm really sorry. I have too many spiritual pets. Can you recognize the girl next to me as your master? Yun Chujiu pointed at Jin Ji and said. The flower shook. No. I'm an immortal-level spiritual herb. Only a heavenly thunder spiritual root like you is worthy to be my master. Just promise me. I know a lot. When the time comes, not only can I help you get back to the top, but I can also help you get rid of your enemies. Yun Chujiu touched her chin. It sounds pretty good. You're not lying to me, right? The flower shook hard. I'm an immortal herb. How can I lie? Hurry up and come here. This way, you can get back to the top as soon as possible. Do you want to stay at the bottom of this valley for the rest of your life? Jean-Ji shook Little Nine's arm. Little Nine, it's too pitiful. Hurry up and save it. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. After exchanging a look with Xue Wuji, she said to the flower, "All right, I promise you. I'll go over and sign the contract with you right now." The flower immediately glowed with a bright red light. It was obviously very excited. Little fairy, then hurry up and come over. I can't wait to acknowledge you as my master. Chapter 22-21. A vicious flower. Yun Chujio walked into the pool. The water was very deep. Yun Chujio swam forward slowly. The flower was clearly anxious and urged, "Little fairy, you should swim faster." "Sigh, I can't help it. I just learned how to swim. I'll try to swim faster." Yun Chujio said this, but her speed became slower. The light of the flower dimmed again. Jinji urged from the shore, "Little Jio, don't you usually swim very fast? Hurry up." Yun Chujio said helplessly, "The liquid here is not water. I really can't swim fast." Jinji stamped her feet anxiously, wishing that she could go down and push Yun Chujio. Finally, Yun Chujio was less than 10 feet away from the flower. The leaves of the flower trembled with excitement. "Little fairy, you have to work harder. You can go ashore soon." Yun Chujio smiled brightly at the flower. Then, she raised her right hand and shot several small purple needles at the flower. At the same time, Xue Wuji knocked Jinji unconscious with one palm strike and dragged her to a place dozens of feet away from the pool. Then, he jumped into the water and swam toward Yun Chujio with all his might. The flower glowed with a bright red light and blocked Yun Chujio's small purple needles. Unexpectedly, the small purple needles exploded one after another, and the flower's protective shield trembled. The flower could not help but say in a flustered and exasperated manner, "Little fairy, what do you mean by this?" Yun Chujio sneered while attacking. "What do you mean? If you want to pretend to be a little white flower, you better act like one. Didn't you notice that there is rabbit hair on your petals? You didn't even wipe your mouth after eating it. How stupid!" The flower subconsciously shook its petals and realized that there was no rabbit hair. It knew that it had been fooled. Could. You stinky girl is indeed cunning. How did you find out? Seeing that it had been seen through, the flower decided not to pretend anymore. "It's very simple. Do you think that I will believe you just because you have bewitched my companions? These liquids are the nemesis of those demonic plants outside. If you are really an immortal herb, why are you afraid of these liquids? It can only mean that you're also a demonic plant, and you're of the same species as those demonic plants outside. Moreover, that windblade rabbit has disappeared without a trace. There's a high chance that it was eaten by you." Yun Chujio curled her lips and said, with such an IQ, she still wanted to deceive her? It was simply a dream. Seeing that all the lies had been exposed, the flower decided to stop pretending. "Stupid girl, at least you're smart. However, do you think that I can't do anything to you?" PL's read on IB0's Nov L. COM. After the flower finished speaking, a leaf shot out from its stem and headed straight for Yun Chujio's glabella. Yun Chujio naturally would not sit still and wait for death. She pulled Xue Wuji and the two of them sank into the water. The leaf was obviously very afraid of the liquid in the pool. It circled the surface of the water a few times before flying back to the stem of the flower. Yun Chujio and Xue Wuji both had water-repellent beads, so the two of them did not have any problems underwater. Yun Chujio was in a dilemma. If it was safe, she would dive from the bottom to the shore, then leave this place, and then find a way to return to the surface. If it was risky, she would find a way to kill the flower. Perhaps she could find a way to get up. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. In any case, they could still dive into the water. Yun Chujio gestured to Xue Wuji. Xue Wuji understood. The two of them filled the storage rings with liquid that could hold water. Then they suddenly surfaced and splashed the liquid onto the flower. Chapter 22:22. Withered flower. The red light of the flower bloomed, blocking the liquid that was pouring on it. However, Yun Chujio saw that the light shield of the flower was corroded by the liquid. Yun Chujio was overjoyed. This liquid was indeed the flower's nemesis. Therefore, the two of them began to pour water with all their might. The flower was so angry that it shot all 7 leaves on the stem towards Yun Chujio and Shui Wuji. Yun Chujio and Shui Wuji had no choice but to dive into the water again. Just as the flower was feeling proud, the water started to churn. Yun Chujio and Shui Wuji threw the water directly at the 7 leaves. The 7 leaves did not have a protective shield. They were corroded in an instant and soon turned into nothingness. The flower's attitude immediately changed. It begged pitifully, "Little fairy, although I am a demonic plant, my attack power is very strong. As long as we sign a contract, I will definitely be of great help to you." Yun Chujio touched her chin and pondered for a while. "What you said seems to make sense. I do need a powerful helper. Anyway, you don't have any leaves to attack me now, so I will take you in." As Yun Chujio spoke, she actually swam towards the flower. The flower's petals trembled slightly, obviously very excited. It thought proudly that although this little girl was cunning, she was still too young. As long as she came up, it would be the end of her. At this moment, a large basin of liquid was thrown at the flower. The flower was completely unprepared and was directly splashed. It immediately let out a shrill cry. Yun Chujio did not care whether it cried or not. She kept pouring liquid on its body. Shui Wuji also came over to help. The two of them wished that they could pour all the liquid in the basin onto the flower. The light of the flower gradually dimmed. First, the petals began to shrink, and then the stem began to shrink. In the end, it actually turned into a seed. When Yun Chujio saw the seed, she immediately thought of the strange grass in her dantian. The strange grass quickly shook its leaves, indicating that it was not the same as this vicious flower. Yun Chujio did not dare to touch the seed. Since someone had used so much liquid to trap the flower, it meant that although the liquid had a deterrent effect on the flower, it could not kill it. Otherwise, she would not have spent so much effort to trap it in the pond. Yun Chujio tried to strike it with lightning and blew it up with a small purple needle. Shui Wuji also tried to attack it with his spiritual skull, but the seed was still intact. P.L.S. read on IB0's Nov L. Com. Yun Chujio looked at her right palm. She said sincerely, "Little flame, I know that you may not have much power now, but this seed is a disaster. Only the strongest fire in the world can deal with it. If you burn it to death, I will satisfy all your requests in the future, okay?" Yun Chujio smacked her lips, and the palm of her right hand heated up. Yun Chujio was delighted, and she struck the seed with several bolts of lightning. The seed let out a shrill cry. Yun Chujio was afraid that it would not die, so she kept hacking and finally, the seed turned into ashes. Yun Chujio kissed her right palm a few times. "Little flame, I love you to death." At this time, this fellow still did not know that she would regret countless times in the future, promising the little flame to fulfill all its requirements. It was simply a bloody history of being burned by fire. When Yun Chujio was kissing her right hand, she noticed that the liquid in the pool was rapidly decreasing. She could not help but wonder what was going on. Chapter 22:23. The destruction of the demonic plants. Just as Yun Chujio was puzzled, she heard a shrill scream coming from outside the cave. It seemed to be coming from the demonic plants, and there were quite a number of them. Otherwise, it would not have reached the depths of the cave. Yun Chujio frowned. Could it be that the pool was connected to the outside? Was it the reduced liquid that killed the demonic plants? At that moment, the liquid in the pond began to decrease rapidly. Yun Chujio and Shui Wuji swam ashore to watch the scene just in case. 2 hours later, the screams outside gradually disappeared. The liquid in the pond had also dried up. Even the liquid on the walls and the ground had completely disappeared. At that moment, Yun Chujio was surprised to find that there were many holes in the bare ground. Yun Chujio immediately had a guess. Those holes should be the roots of the flower from before. Those roots were connected to the demonic plants outside. The demonic plants outside were probably the subordinates or descendants of the flower. They absorbed nutrients and were responsible for feeding the flower. The flower had restrained the liquid in the pool, and both parties had reached a delicate balance. Now that the flower was dead, the liquid in the pool had no more worries. Naturally, they had to eradicate all the demonic plants outside. They would follow the holes and corrode the roots of the demonic plants. This could also explain why the liquid in the pool was rapidly decreasing. Yun Chujio and Shui Wuji did not find anything unusual. After waking Jin Ji up, the three of them left the cave. Jin Ji shook her head. "Little Jio, why do I feel like I'm having a dream? It seems like I don't know anything after seeing that flower." Yun Chujio was amused. "You were controlled by that flower, so naturally, you don't know anything. Let me tell you what happened." Yun Chujio briefly recounted what happened. Jin Ji was shocked and scolded the flower. She could not help but exclaim, "The heavenly thunder spirit root and the mutated wind spirit root are extraordinary. They are not bewitched. I, an ordinary person, can't do it." Yun Chujio was stunned. That's right. Since Wu Jie's brain would not be easily bewitched, why did he fall into the illusion formation a few days ago? Now was not the time to ask. Yun Chujio temporarily put the matter aside and prepared to ask Shui Wuji again when she had the chance. The three of them went out of the cave to take a look. As expected, the lush demonic plants had all disappeared, leaving only a large area of exposed soil. PL's read on IB0's Nov L. Yun Chujio looked at the stone wall beside her. She could not help but be delighted. "Brother Wuji, Jin Ji, the liquid on it is much less than before. I reckon that it will completely dry up before long. At that time, we can use sticky threads to climb up. This is great." Shui Wuji and Jin Ji were also extremely excited. Shui Wuji suddenly frowned. "Little sister Jio, although it's a good thing that we can climb up, you didn't obtain the inheritance of the heavenly Dao cliff. If we go up, how will you deal with it? If you can't enter the Xingtian Academy, I won't go up either." "Yes, I won't go up either. Let's go apply for the vast sea sect," Jin Ji echoed. Yun Chujio touched her chin. This was really a problem. It was such a pity to give up the opportunity to enroll. How could she muddle through? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. Something wasn't right. She didn't jump down by herself. She was sucked down. It definitely wasn't that flower. If that flower had such great ability, it wouldn't have been killed by them in the end. What the hell sucked her down? Chapter 22-24 The Culprit, Brother Wuji, Beauty Jin Ji. I was pulled down by a huge suction force at that time. There must be something else going on down there. Let's look again. Damn it, he dared to plot against me. I won't forgive him. Yun Chujio said fiercely. Shui Wuji and Jin Ji felt that the liquid on the cliff would dry up after some time, so they could look for the culprit. If it weren't for the culprit, they wouldn't have nearly lost their lives. If they didn't teach him a lesson, they wouldn't have been able to vent their hatred. Therefore, the three of them began to search the valley. However, other than the white bones and the exposed land, there was nothing unusual. Who was the culprit? In the blink of an eye, another day had passed. The three of them also went into the cave to check, but they didn't find anything unusual. Yun Chujio was puzzled. It was really strange. There was clearly a suction force that pulled her down, but why couldn't they find the culprit? However, this guy was not easily discouraged. She felt that no matter what, no matter how secretive it was, there would always be traces left behind. As long as she put her heart into it, she would definitely be able to find the flaw. Yun Chujio recalled the situation that day. She studied the inheritance on the Heaven Dao Cliff and realized that the closer she was to the Heaven Dao Cliff, the more obvious the ancient aura she felt. Therefore, she could not help but get closer and closer. Then she was pulled down by a huge suction force. Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly narrowed. Damn it! It must be the Tian Dao Cliff's doing. It deliberately released an ancient aura to lure her closer and closer to the cliff and then pulled her down. The purpose of the Heavenly Dao Cliff was obvious. It wanted to kill her. Good, very good. Damn it, Even if I, Yun Chujio, can't enter the Heaven Punisher Academy today, I will destroy this turtle bastard's heavenly Dao cliff. Yun Chujio shared her guess with Shui Wuji and Jin Ji. The two of them felt that it was very reasonable. However, wasn't destroying the heavenly Dao cliff a little too rough? Little Jio, this heavenly Dao cliff is the precious treasure of the Heaven Punisher Academy. If you destroy it, will the Heaven Punisher Academy spare you? Jin Ji asked worriedly. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. What you said makes sense. Originally, I wanted to use dozens of sacks of superior-grade burst talismans to blow it up after I climbed up. After hearing what you said, I decided to use a gentler method. Gentler method? What gentler method? Jin Ji asked in confusion. Pls read on Ebiziro's Novo. See, rumors. After we go up, we will say that the flower is supported by the Heavenly Dao Cliff. The existence of the Heavenly Dao Cliff is to lure more people into the deep valley, so that the flower will have food. When that time comes, this shit Heavenly Dao Cliff will become the target of public criticism. I think those who receive the inheritance will also jump up and scold it. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Little Jio, although the method you said sounds good, will everyone believe it? What is the fastest way to spread news? It's just a rumor. Anyway, there are so many white bones as proof, and that flower is dead. The Heavenly Dao Cliff will be unable to defend itself, not to mention that it doesn't know how to speak at all. At that time, the Heavenly Dao Cliff might be renamed as Devil Cliff, Hell Cliff, and Wangbaya. When the Heaven Punisher Academy dislikes it, I will find a chance to blow it up. Damn it, you dare to frame me? Unless it can give me sufficient compensation, I can't torture it to death. Yun Chujio said fiercely, but a trace of craftiness flashed in her eyes. Chapter 22-25. You are just a piece of rock. Jinji didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the stone wall on one side of the Heavenly Dao Cliff seemed to tremble. Just as Jinji was about to speak, Yun Chujio winked at her. Shui Wuji also secretly gave her a look, and Jinji immediately followed suit. She echoed, Little Jio, what you said makes sense. The Xingtian Academy has always been known for upholding justice. When the time comes, they will definitely feel that the Tiandao has tarnished the reputation of the Xingtian Academy and will definitely not care about its life or death. Yun Chujio nodded. She said excitedly, Beauty Jinji, you are right. When the time comes, before I blow it up, I will first make some dog blood or something. I will write the words Wang Bao on it. When everyone has enjoyed it enough, I will blow it up. After I blow it up, perhaps the Xingtian Academy will thank me for creating a large piece of flat land. Little Sister Jio, many people have died at the bottom of this valley. You can also make an announcement and let the descendants of those people come over. I think they will definitely scold this Heavenly Dao Cliff. It will definitely be fun when the time comes, Shui Wuji said with a wicked smile. Right, Brother Wuji, you are really too smart. That's what we will do when the time comes. Let's climb up now and publicize this matter to the public. So it turns out that the Heavenly Dao Cliff is a Wangbaya that specializes in harming people. As Yun Chujio said this, she gave Shui Wuji and Jin Ji some sticky silk. She walked to the other side of the stone wall and was about to climb up. At this moment, an angry voice came from within the Tiandao Cliff. No, you can't do this. Yun Chujio's eyes flickered. Yo, who's farting? Stinks. Stinks. You stinky girl that the Tiandao won't tolerate. You're the one who's farting. The voice was clearly even angrier. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. Tiandao ya, do you think that you are amazing just because you have the word Tiandao in your name? Even that old bastard Tiandao couldn't kill me. What kind of big clove do you think you are? Let me tell you clearly, if you don't satisfy me today, I will blow you into powder sooner or later. I will see if your master Tiandao will save you when the time comes. Tiandao Cliff was obviously very angry. After a long time, he squeezed out a sentence, no one will believe you. You're just making up a rumor. I'll explain. Brains are a good thing, but it's a pity that you don't have one. Haven't you heard of a saying, the more you smear, the darker it gets? Think about it. Everyone originally thought that you were the profound Tian Dao Cliff. They didn't expect that you could actually speak. This ability to speak meant that you already had intelligence. Since you have intelligence, why didn't you warn everyone when you knew that there was a vicious demonic plant at the bottom of the valley? Why didn't you save everyone? Isn't it obvious that you are the accomplice of that demonic plant? Yun Chujio curled her lips and said disdainfully, "It's not like what you said. I can't do anything to that 9E netherworld flower. Otherwise, I would definitely kill it." Tian Dao Cliff explained anxiously. "Pls read on IB0's Nov L. What you said is quite innocent. Then why didn't you stop those cultivators? Everything has its own destiny. I can't reveal the secrets of the heavens." Pui. You speak in a sanctimonious manner. In fact, aren't you afraid that your words will lose their mysteriousness and you won't be able to maintain the prestige of your heavenly Dao Cliff? You are a scumbag. No, you are a scumbag. Yun Chujio cursed with her hands on her waist. The heavenly Dao Cliff was scolded so badly that it could not defend itself. The entire cliff trembled in anger as it denied everything. "Alright, those people who died are not my relatives anyway. I can't be bothered to settle the score with you. However, you sucked me down and almost cost me my life. How should I settle this matter? If you can't satisfy me, Tsuke, I have used a recording stone to record what I said just now. Tell me, what will everyone think if they hear it?" Yun Chujio crossed her arms. She said with an evil smile, "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.